Okay, now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking these ears and attaching them to the head. Now you can see here what I've done is I've put a little pen mark where I'm going to put the hole. Now, if you don't have an awl, this is an awl. It's basically just something very sharp and pointy, kind of looks like an ice pick, I would guess. And this is just for making holes in different things like leather. You can use it for bookbinding. It's used in sewing as well. If you don't have an awl, but you do have a pair of very sharp tweezers, you can use the tweezers instead. If you don't have the tweezers, then you can use a seam ripper as well. Or sometimes a really very sharp pair of scissors will have a nice point on them that you can use. Now, since I have the awl, what I'm going to do is I've gone ahead and made the marks where I'm going to put the holes, and then I just take the awl, and the awl is nice because it just makes a nice hole, a nice even hole, and you can see all the pen mark just kind of disappears into that. And I'm going to do that on both sides. If I can get that right there. Okay. And then if you need to, you can also use your scissors to kind of widen the hole just a tiny bit. And you can come back here, you can see the pen mark is still kind of there. So if you don't like the pen mark, you can kind of get in there and nip some of that off. Or, because felt is one of these fabrics that you can kind of widen pretty easily, you can take your scissors and make the hole a little wider like that. Now, what you're going to do with the ear, how you're going to get it in there, is you're going to be using these tweezers, and you're going to be doing something called carefully cramming. Okay, so I've got an ear, okay, and I want to make sure that I've got the ears going the way that I want them. And I'm going to take the ear, and you can see I'm holding it in the tweezers. And here's the hole. I'm basically just going to take it in here and carefully cram it in there. And you can see I'm really holding on to it and trying to get it in there as far as about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, now you can see it's not going to stay, that's for sure. I do 2 things to make sure that it's going to stay. And this was just to show you how I got that done. Now, what I'm going to do, and again, I'm going to make that a little wider, kind of bore it out a little bit. I'm going to get my tacky glue, and I'm going to put it inside the hole right here, and I'm going to give it a nice squirt. And I'm going to do that on both holes because I really want this to stay. And you might get a little bit on the outside. Remember, this is tacky glue, so even if you do get a little on the outside, it's going to dry really nicely. And I'm going to grab my ear, and remember, I'm going to carefully cram. I'm going to get it in there, and you can see I'm kind of twisting as I go, and then pull the tweezers out. And you can, if you know that your little piggy isn't going to get messed with very much or played around with very much, you can go ahead and just leave it like that if you don't want to do an additional ladder stitch. But what I'm going to show you in the next step is how to do a ladder stitch around the outside to keep the ear a little bit more attached. And I really apologize for that music that just went by.